Hey, Mike. Have you made any decisions on additions to the alternate camp?
Not yet. We're meeting about that tomorrow. We revisit the topic regularly, and we have some spots open right now, which is by design. I think we wanted to see how this early part of the season went with respect to keeping spots that are devoted to major league depth. Obviously, we have a lot more prospects that we would love to get there. That list is long, and we're itching to get those guys there as much as possible, but we also have to be very concerned and mindful of making sure that we have the depth necessary to navigate any major league season, but particularly this one where the possibility of losing a lot of players very suddenly is greater than normal.
Stan Charles, you're up next. Go ahead, Stan.
Mike, this is a question would be asked typically a little further along in a season, but based on how Alex Cobb pitched, you wonder if there would be a possibility into turning him into a trade chip. Is that all but impossible in this year, the way things are set up?
Well, I'm happy that he looks so good. He pitched really well yesterday. It was really the best I've seen him throw since, the last year or so, since he got getting back to that start against the Yankees, the home opener last year, and everything that he went through to get back to that spot. A lot of work by him and our pitching staff, coaching staff, to get him here. So he's going to be a big asset for us. I've said all along, and I say all along, a general manager's job is to look at player moves, and so we'll see what comes our way with any of our players as the season goes. But I think that he's going to be an enormous help for us this year in helping out our young pitchers, getting us through the year and helping us win games. And if he keeps doing what he's doing, it's going to be a big year for him.
Dan Connolly, you're up next. Go ahead, Dan.
Hey, Mike, since Stan opened up the trade deadline can of worms, I'm going to keep going with it here. How much do you think the extended playoff situation now is going to affect the trade deadline? Obviously, it seems like there would be more teams still competing, less teams that are be done. So what do you think overall the effect that will have on the trade deadline for you and for Major League Baseball?
I really don't know what this trade market is going to look like this year. There are so many factors, it's hard to cover them all, that makes it just a total unknown. You brought up one, with the expanded playoffs, presumably that would make more teams be looking to buy, but also some teams could perhaps view this year as a little more of a crapshoot because of how short it is, and the playoffs might be harder to get through the first couple of rounds. You've also got, the financial impact of the coronavirus outage that we've just had, and teams may have very limited to no budget flexibility for this year. There's just a lot of factors, and I just really don't know how to predict how teams are going to behave, and we're just going to have to see.
Steve Molesky, you're up next. Go ahead, Steve.
Mike, is there any behind-the-scenes talk about beyond the player pool, something that allows the minor leaguers to play, that go to Sarasota or somewhere you would designate? And furthermore, is there also any percolating talk about, for instance, your Bowie camp being able to play another team later in the summer?
So the answer to the second question is no. The alternate campsites, as the rules are stated, can only play intra-squad, amongst themselves. So we don't expect to have any travel, at the alternate sites in terms of different organizations, players playing one another. There's nothing concrete to report in terms of like a player development experience or a plan for that. I know that all of the baseball operations people in the league really want it. I mean, so especially for a team like us, it's so important to get our young minor leaguers, out there and playing and getting better. It's a big part of our plan. But there's no concrete plans for it yet. It's not going to be easy. It's requiring a lot of extra planning and work and expertise and investment to stand up the major league season like we're doing right now. We probably have to apply something very, very similar at the player development level too. So it's not going to be something that's taken lightly, but I know we all really want to do it. So I remain hopeful about it.
Rich Dubroff, you're up. Go ahead, Rich.
Mike, two of the guys who are still in your player pool are Ty Block and Steve Wilkerson. Is Wilkerson done for the season? And because Block and Wilkerson are on minor league contracts, does that make their removal from the player pool that much more difficult?
Yeah, we'll have to see. Obviously, we're doing our best to take care of them right now with each of their respective injuries. Block just had surgery, so there's not much for him to do right now other than monitoring, and Wilkie's injury is just going to require some rest right now. I think he's going to miss a significant portion of the season, but it's not out of the question that it does become a whole season affair with how short the season is, which is really tough because this was going to be a good opportunity for him this year, and he looked really good. It's just a really unfortunate injury and unfortunate timing. So we'll just, we're taking that day by day like anything else.
Joe Trezza, you're up. Go ahead, Joe.
Mike, is there a chance that now that all the draftees are signed, that any of them eventually get sent to the alternate training site? And what are you guys doing or prepping or have in the works already to keep guys engaged that won't be going there?
Yeah, we're something we talk about a lot is which prospects are priorities to join next when we're able to get more prospects there. And we have a lot of discussions about not only the individual players but the type of players that would benefit most from being there or be kind of be missing out on the least from not being there. And that weighs into this decision as well. And, obviously we're considering everyone in our organization, but it's a tight squeeze and we've got to choose. So, we'll just kind of see where that takes us. But in the meantime, as you said, we're taking a lot of care to stay engaged with these guys remotely on the pitching or hitting coaching front, if they're a pitcher or hitter, on the mental skills front, most importantly, probably the strength and conditioning, health front, and each member of the player development staff in those respective areas are checking in regularly with every single one of our minor leaguers. And with the 2020 draft class in particular, we're kind of doing some group stuff with those guys, so they can make some friends and feel a part of the organization, even though they're not here.
Jerry Coleman, you're up. Go ahead, Jerry.
Mike, as far as the quality of play goes, not just with the Orioles, but across baseball altogether, how do you feel it's looked so far, and your thoughts on the crowd noise that's being pumped in, the fans that are being pumped in or cut out on the stands? What are your impressions of that?
I think it's great. The crowd noise, I was a little skeptical at first when I heard about it, but I think it was an excellent decision. It's really helped on a number of levels, and especially when you watch a game on TV, I think it really, really works. And even the cutout fans, I've seen them, I've not seen them, but it kind of does something on TV as well. I stayed up late last night watching West Coast games, and honestly, I haven't enjoyed watching random baseball games like this in a long time. It just feels really good to have the box scores and the league up and running, and it's exciting on TV. And I think we're kind of all honored to be a part of this because it's going to occupy a really strange and special chapter in baseball history one day.
Stan Charles, you're up again. Go ahead, Stan.
Hey, Mike, I'm asking you this not as some type of defense against what your pitching staff did last year. It stands on its own, but our defense this year, the Oriole defense this year, up the middle, how much can that help a pitching staff like Iglesias, Hayes, right up the middle?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of our hope. Iggy was in a big way brought here to provide that stability. I think it trickles down to the rest of the infield because it allows, Hanser to play second base more, and for other players not to be out of position. I think Pat Valleca is going to be a big help moving around and spelling guys and backing people up, and he plays a really adequate quality shortstop, so I think we'll see him there as well. And then we've also got many other utility type guys on the active roster and the 40-man roster that will help out here and there as well. But certainly I think that having a full off season to accrue a lot of depth in those areas, and also to target and sign a guy like Elias, this is part of the plan. And you see you need it. I mean, already we've lost Richie Martin and Wilkerson for very extended periods of time, and that's a big blow, to the shortstop and center field depth chart. So, it's important to gather these types of players.
John Muley, you're up. Go ahead, John.
Mike, you've gotten to see a lot of the guys, whether it's spring training, summer camp, and a lot of them, I guess, working towards the changes that you guys wanted to see from the end of this year to now. Are there any players or aspects of anyone's game that you're particularly excited to see coming to fruition now the games are happening and these changes are really taking hold?
So can you repeat that again?
Sorry, that was a long question. Yeah, I mumbled. Is there anyone on the team, a carryover guy from last year, who's done a lot of work in the offseason that you're really looking forward to seeing how it looks now the games actually count?
Yeah, there are a lot of guys. I don't know if I'll be able to cover the whole list off the top of my head, but specifically we identified a couple of young hitters last year that we felt their swing mechanics could improve, but that they have really good approaches and back to ball skills and are good hitters. But we wanted to make some adjustments with their swing mechanics, and so Mullins and Cisco we had go to some independent instruction over the winter, and I do think that the work looks good right now. I think we've got guys that have improved their physiques. Nuni is in really good shape. Renato Nunez, I think he's going to have a big year with the bat. And certainly there are players, up and down the organization that we're not seeing here at the major league level that have made similar adjustments. We're seeing them here yet, but yeah, it's this is part of what these guys are doing right now. Trying to establish their careers, and a lot of them have put in some serious work in the off season, and I've got to commend them for keep staying in that shape and continuing to get the reps in for 3 or 4 months while they were at home with limited resources. I'm really pleased with the way that the group was able to do that.
Joe Trezza, you're up. Go ahead, Joe.
Mike, along those lines, do you think we'll see Ryan Mountcastle up here in the big leagues soon?
I hope so. He's he's in Bowie now. We've said this a lot. There are 2 big areas that we want him to focus on. One is learning to play left field. Been really impressed with how much better he's gotten very, very quickly, given the fact that he was basically dropped in left field midway last year for the first time in his life. But he's still got a ways to go there, and that's a big focus of his work down in Bowie. And then secondarily, a big right-handed power hitter like he is, a potential middle of the order bat. His walk rates in the minor leagues have not reflected what you want to see, and maybe would be some cause for caution in terms of major league success right now. And I've talked to him about it, and he knows this. It's because he's a natural hitter. He sees pitches and he wants to hit them, and he can hit a lot of different pitches, and that's very common in young guys that are just gifted natural hitability guys like he is. But I think he would benefit a lot from some concentrated work and being more selective and taking pitches he can drive. And he's been applying himself toward that in Bowie. We've got some tools in place to help him get feedback on his swing decisions. And I know he's waiting for his opportunity up here.
Dan Connolly, you're up. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, Mike, quick follow. You talked about, as far as the Overflow camp is concerned, not just the specific prospects, but the kinds of prospects or kinds of players. If everything is equal and you're choosing between guys, do you think you would lean more towards pitchers or position players? What is it more important for to get this extra time?
For me, it's pitchers, and it's because there is a physical aspect to logging large amount of innings that will bleed over into next year. So if they're not able to get those innings, get that work in, this is going to spill over into next season, and I think that's less of a risk for the hitters. Now that said, young, especially some of these guys that we just took out of high school over the last few years really, and they were really in sort of their developmental stages as young teenage hitters facing pro ball for the first time coming out of high school. Those are the guys I'm most concerned about on the hitting side. So we're gonna try as we get into this and it evolves, and maybe we free up some spots somehow, or we get more comfortable with our ability to get through the year. We'll try to add these guys as opportunities present themselves. But overall, we're leaning pitchers when it comes to making those choices. And kind of luckily for us, a lot of our top pitching prospects, we're upper level guys to begin with. So they would kind of naturally veer anyway, given that they were in Major League camp or getting close to being Major League considerations.
Stan Charles, you're up.
Hey, Mike, last year when you were hired, you're a first-time GM, and then you take a chance on a first-time manager. You've now been through one full season and one of the craziest off seasons and spring trainings in the history of the game. Has Brandon demonstrated to you more and more some of the things that were the reasons you hired him to begin with?
Yeah, of course. I really think that he has been the right guy for what we're doing here, for this administration, and for this new chapter, and for the Orioles that we're building toward. This has been like you said, just a year that has been like no other. And for all of us, it has really just kind of changed the nature of our jobs and how we're spending our time every day. So now that we're kind of emerging from that period and getting back to more baseball matters, I'm looking forward to, that being the main part of our jobs. But, we've just all spent so much time dealing with how to navigate, the outage out of spring training, and then now the protocols. And, he's been a huge part of that, and working with our whole team, our business side of the Orioles, the senior management team, the medical staff, both of which have done a great job putting us in good shape at Camden Yards for getting the season going. And, Brandon's really worked well with that group, amongst other people.